All right, welcome back to Athletic Everyday Day 19. Today was an entirely upper body day, so it's actually a rest day from the program that I'm doing. But I figured on the off days, I could just do some non-disruptive training, some non-disruptive upper body training. So for the main movements today, I wanted to do some strict press to improve my overhead strength and stability, which will help to carry over to my weightlifting movements when I get back into them, because that probably was the weakest area of my weightlifting movements overall. I definitely struggled with jerks and just anything overhead. And to warm up for the session, I did some slant board squats, I did some rollouts with the wheel, and I also did some handstand practice and a couple of scapular pull-ups and also some skin the cats. Just really basic mobility, upper body mobility and activation to get the whole body feeling good. Well, to get my upper body feeling good for the workout that was coming. And aside from overhead press or strict press, I wanted to do some front lever practice because I've really been delaying it, and I think if I just worked on it a little bit more and improved my pulling strength, I think I'm pretty close to doing a front lever. I've always been quite good at pulling just because of my anatomy. I've got quite long arms and I've got a decently long back, and I think it's from my history of swimming. I used to be, for those of you that don't know, I used to be a national level swimmer. And obviously swimming, especially butterfly, front crawl and backstroke, all of the strokes really in general, they utilize a lot of pulling. So obviously that movement pattern is very well developed in my nervous system. And from a very young age, from the age of 8 to 18, I was doing that movement probably 3 to 5 times a week for 1 to 2 hours. So I've got a pretty good amount of base pulling strength kind of in my nervous system and obviously my muscular system as well, which is why I've always found pull-ups relatively easy and sort of pulling movements quite good, like deadlifts, so on and so forth. So that is a reason why I think I'm quite close to getting a front lever. It's a very difficult movement. I've got quite heavy legs now. I feel like if my legs weren't so heavy and I'd actually practiced front lever, I hadn't done lower body strength training, and I'd actually just practiced front lever, I probably would have it by now. But, you can't prioritize everything at once. You can only do one thing at a time. So this program now, allowing me to train upper body 3 days a week, should be really good. So the strict press, I worked up to a top set of 60 kilos. And I figured that I would do strict press kind of how I was doing the back squat in the previous program that I just did, Clarence Kennedy's beginner weightlifting program. So the way that worked was the first 5 weeks of the program, it was 5 sets of 4 on the back squat. So I'm going to do 5 sets of 4 with an equivalently heavy weight for obviously strict press, which for me is around about 60 kilos at the moment. And then in the next 5 weeks of the program, I'll drop down to triples and I'll do 6 sets of 3. And my main goal with strict press is just to get 1 rep with body weight. If I can do a rep with body weight, then I'll be really happy, because that is a similar sort of movement pattern to doing handstand push-ups, and I know the strength will carry over really nicely. And apologies everyone for the stupid angles of me doing the front lever. I really should have done this on my other pull-up bar, but I could have done it on here, and it's a lot easier just to transition straight from the strict press into the front lever on the barbell. And yeah, with regards to front lever progressions, I'm sort of halfway between an advanced tuck and a straddle, so that's why this looks so awkward. Again, apologies for the very strange angle. I don't know why I decided to record from this angle, to be honest. But yeah, I think the most I've ever hold was, I think it's a half, I can't remember what the tuck is called when you have one leg out, one leg in. I think it's a half tuck or a half full, I'm not sure. But I've been able to hold that for about 10 seconds, but that was a couple months back when I was training it a bit more regularly. So hopefully with this three upper body sessions a week, I'll be able to train it. I also figured I'd try a reverse grip just to mix it up, and very interestingly, I did feel this a lot more in my chest from this supination of my hands when I'm holding the bar, so potentially that is something I also want to work on. I really don't train chest a lot though. And what I noticed in the strict press, I actually found the reps easier when I let the bar come to a full rest and rest in the front rack position, rather than trying to rush the rep and bounce it off my chest. I feel like it gives me a chance to fully reset. I mean, the reps weren't easy by any means, but I'm really happy with how these felt today, and hopefully I'll be able to progress sort of 1.25 extra kilos, 2.5 to 1.25 kilos extra every week, and we'll see how that goes. And towards the end of the session, I just literally did a couple of upper body accessories. I wanted to train arms and I wanted to train a bit of shoulders for no other reason than to just, put on a bit of size, keep my body looking nice. Nothing more than aesthetic reasons, to be honest. Although there was a particular exercise that you'll see me doing in a minute, which is a straight arm banded isometric. The reason why I did that was to help me improve my straight arm strength, something that is very, very useful for developing upper body strength in gymnastics. So generally, you'll know that the strength of muscles, here it is, the strength of muscles are weakest when they're in their most fully extended state, when muscles are at their longest. So it makes sense then to try and strengthen the muscles in their end range of motion, because that's when they'll be under the most tension, when they're at their longest. And if you can strengthen them when they're at their weakest, then when you're doing very short range of motion exercises, for example like a bicep curl or a pull up or even a ring muscle up, it's a very short range of motion that you're doing that through for the biceps muscle in particular. It becomes a lot easier because you've trained the extended range of motion. And I think the same logic applies for most muscle groups. It makes sense to train them, again, not only train them in the extended end range of motion, but it really does have a great deal of value. And I think it's severely underrated to train muscles in their end range of motion. Then I finished up with some overhead tricep extensions. And of course, you can never waste a pump. And I will catch you guys in the next one.